Good evening, everyone, and and welcome to another episode of the Sask Sports Show, brought to you by Southwest Terminal. I'm your host, JD Houghton. Joining me tonight will be Scott Scissons. He is the head coach of the Saskatoon Blazers of the Saskatchewan Midget AAA Hockey League. Scott and I will discuss tonight the new restrictions that have come into play that have postponed their hockey season. We're also going to talk about the hot start that the Blazers are off to through 4 games. And we're going to be talking about, just the team, talking about the players and who stood out. So I hope you guys enjoy the show. So sit back and relax and enjoy the show. Hey, Scott, how you doing tonight?
I'm good, JD. How are you doing?
Pretty good, pretty good. I appreciate you jumping on the show with me tonight.
I appreciate the invite.
Oh, no worries. So I'm gonna kind of get right to it. I know with these new restrictions, your season's kind of postponed until the new year. How are you and the team holding up after that decision came down?
Well, it's tough because you've been living it for the last 7 months, where you start and stop, and you also are thankful that you're on the ice as often as you have been, but all of a sudden now you're dealing with some close contacts, and we've been off the ice now for about a week, just getting everybody tested and making sure everything is okay. And it's I don't like the term new reality because everyone's dealing with the same pandemic, but it's tough on the kids. And yet, you go back to your grandparents that lived through the depressions and the world wars and the rest of the things. And if this age group's toughest bout with life, then they're pretty privileged. So like I said, we're making the best out of it right now. We got a pretty good spin on our kids, and they're pretty positive. So we'll get back on the ice tomorrow, JD, so we're pretty excited.
So are you guys going to be, like, I know the rules kind of, you can practice in groups of 8. Is that kind of what you'll be doing?
Yeah, we'll be full bubble wrap tomorrow. Our last skate before the break, we had masks, the interior masks on our helmets, and again, it'll take some time getting used to. But again, if that's the toughest thing we're dealing with, JD, we're still pretty privileged. So we'll get back at it. We'll do some more skill work and see if we can't get better, faster, stronger.
So how has the team reacted to having to wear masks on the ice?
Well, it's like trying to breathe through a sock. So it's not a lot of fun, but it is what it is, and that's it's our life right now. So you know what, they were pretty good. There was a little bit of kicking and screaming to start with, as normal, but it was by the end of it. And our last skate day was a scrimmage. We just said, you know what, we're not going to do anything otherwise. We're going to enjoy our big group today and have some fun, play a game, and then we got shut down. So again, they're a good group of kids, so they're pretty positive. And again, they're just thankful to be back on the ice. So it is what it is.
Well, as my girlfriend would say, it's like breathing through an oven mitt, some of those masks.
Yeah, they especially when you're trying to move. Again, I haven't sweated in like 6 years, so I wouldn't know what they're talking about. But yeah, these kids are in good shape, and they're used to the intake, the oxygen. Now all of those things become important, and it's again another thing they're going to learn. But you know what? Within a week or two, it'll be normal, and then all of a sudden, when they're not using it, they're going to feel like they're out on a run. So it'll be a nice change.
Well, and then after a while, you're just going to feel naked when you're not wearing it. It's going to become so they're going to get so used to it that it's just going to feel weird without them on.
It's second nature, where all of a sudden,
Yeah.
how many times have you walked into somewhere without a mask and had to run back to your vehicle to get it, where it's just going to be, hey, you got it on still. And you start to see that now, where it's just, like I said, it's an assimilation to what is required to be normal right now. And that's what it is. So again, I think it's the less we complain about it and the more we get to deal with it, the better it'll be longer term.
Well, and they're going to reconvene on the 17th about to see if they're going to bring sports back, and if they do, what's going to be the procedure. Do you think that possibly there's going to be more restrictions, possibly no fans allowed in the new year?
You know what? It's a tough decision for everybody, because I struggle with. I don't think we were the cause of it. I think humanity and its eagerness to get back to normal was the problem, and all of a sudden we might have overstretched things a little bit. Having one parent per game, per kid, and all the social distancing and the masks and everything, it's going to take its toll. I think we need a little time to see that it set in. Unfortunately, short term, we're going to be in a different, the numbers are going to continue to rise out here. There's more testing. It's out there. So I think that's the hard part, JD. But I'm hopeful that we take the numbers and we correlate them more to hospitalizations and ICU versus positives, and make that a bigger number versus us missing out on, there's going to be numbers of people that get sick. We get sick every day. There's people that get different kind of sicknesses every day. And I think it's skewed a little bit. I'd like to see, I got to get off my soapbox here. I just think there's a simpler way to get to where we want to be in this. And I think if we all do our part in the short term, we get there quicker than trying to fight it short right now, because it's awfully difficult listening to 100 different people with that think they know what's going on, where most of us really don't right now.
Well, and especially like you said before, your season's been kind of touch and go, and you've only played, I think it's been 4 games you've played, compared to some teams have played 5 or 6 games. 2 of your games were canceled due to weather, which is understandable, but I think you had 1 game that was canceled due to COVID, and it's just one of those things that it's hard on the team. You practice during the week, you get ready for a game, and then it's canceled. And I can imagine that's hard on the boys. It takes its toll after a while.
It does, because you get geared up, and it's not an on-off switch that you want to turn on and off. You want to get that 3 or 4 games a week. You get to a point where you practice so much that you don't like the guy you're sitting next to. You want to run him in the corner, and everybody's a little touchy, and you're just used to something different. And now, again, if this is what we're dealing with, we'll be okay. But you want to get into a little bit of rhythm so you can knock a little rust off. By game 4, our last game, thankfully, we got to play. It was probably our best effort of the year. We were getting, again, we played 4 games, and it's the end of November, early December. Normally right now we'd have been touching on 25 with exhibition games, and you would have worked through a couple of slumps already. You'd have figured a couple things out, and we're just still trying to, not that there's rust, it's just you're awfully green right now, and that's the hard part.
Well, and bringing up that game, that was a good game. I remember watching that on, you had it on, I think it was YouTube? Or
yeah, it was in the Saskatoon Center and contact streamed it on YouTube or Facebook. But yeah, it was a good game again. Two real good teams, and real good game at the end of the day. It was fun, and that's what's been missing the last little while. It's the fun part of the competition and playing.
Well, and that's what you need too. Like, and playing at this high level hockey, yeah, there's a point of seriousness, but during this kind of time, all you can kind of do is roll with it, take it with a grain of salt, and then just have fun when you can. Because for some of these kids, this might be their last year midget before they go play higher level hockey. So it's something that they want to remember.
Well, it is, and we've been fortunate enough with the proper recruiting and some planning to have a really good group of kids around, where we might lose a couple to a Western League if it were to get going, but we kind of hedge their bets and talk to people early enough to put together a group that again, they're all the same mind, where they are going to play through us. They want more, so it makes it's a more receptive, not a more receptive, but it's an easily, your message is taken in. They want to learn every day. They're on the ice 15 minutes early, and you got to kick them off by the time the Zamboni's trying to get on the ice. So that's the culture you want to create, where they want to be there. And it's just tough when you can't let the horse run. You got a lot of pulling on the reins right now, where it's fun to let them to see what they can do.
Well, and with this whole pandemic and whatnot, how has the league been handling it? Like, do they kind of keep you up to date as best as they can with,
Yeah, it's tough because it's stop and start. The league did a real good job, and they've got a person in charge of the pandemic relations, and his name's Jonathan Huntington. He works with Cameco and does it on their behalf, so it's a trickle down. But Jonathan's very diligent, has given us lots of information to work with, both good and bad in terms of reality. And it's allowed us to at least be proactive in terms of what we're doing. Like, we got into our groups of 8 pretty quick, allowed us to keep the nets on the ice, which is something that was in question for a while. But again, they're doing the best they can. Again, everybody at this level of hockey, JD, is still a volunteer for the most part. So they've got day jobs and they're working around everything. So you got lots of Zoom calls and people trying to work at different hours. And the league's done a real good job given what the hand they've been dealt.
Well, and you can't predict the future, especially you kind of just got to go with it. You just kind of got to take it day by day, especially with something as big as this, to keep everybody in the loop and with, new restrictions and whatnot. And I imagine you and the team are pretty up to date on new restrictions as well. So you guys are informed.
Yeah, it's part of your day to day, and our manager, I feel bad. Cole Shepard's he's organized and reorganized and broken down groups and reorganized school schedules and billets and rides and the rest of it. It's a monster, truly. And but again, this level of hockey, you're doing it for different reasons, and it's because you enjoy it and you like the feedback of the kids and watching them learn and get better. So you don't get hung up on a lot of that extra time. It's just you feel badly for the people that all of a sudden on Monday we had our next 3 weeks organized, and we had a close contact letter come out. So all of a sudden you rejig it, and you got to call the rink, you got to call the gym, you got to call the trainers, you got to reconstitute everything, and now you're back to square one, where we got a green light this afternoon, and then replan everything for tomorrow. So off we go.
So what's the protocol on game day for like your COVID, I would say, routine that you have to deal with every day, game day practice kind of, and whatnot, on a regular basis?
Two different animals. Game day is different because you've shortened up your allowance of time in the rink, so you're down to 90 minutes prior, and that's from game time. So 30 minutes is puck drop, so you're really an hour before puck drop. So normally we were there 2 hours before warm up. So now everything's condensed from your warm up to making sure you've got time to do your board talk, to your pregame, to kids getting, everybody's got their own little idiosyncrasies that they like to, walk backwards or put their shirt off 3 times or whatever. So everything's a bit condensed into, what new normal becomes. And so I think some of the road teams, I think a lot of the scouts will have noticed the road kids have had a little bit more of a challenge getting in there. Practice days are pretty normal. You're only allowed in 15 minutes before. You're mask in, mask out, mask over to the rink. You can take your mask off. You could take your mask off when you got on the ice, and now it'll be straight wearing. So again, as you said, it's been a long time of this now. It's pretty simple. It gets to be normal, and like I said, you're still on the ice. There's a lot worse places that you'd have to be, JD, on a day than being in the rink, even with a mask on. So we're counting ourselves pretty lucky.
Okay, I got one more question before we cut to a break. So with wearing a mask on the bench, how much harder is it for you to yell at a ref? Because most of the time you can't hear what the other person's saying.
It's impossible. It's not even fair, to be quite honest. But the only good thing is they don't know which coach is yelling at them. So you can kind of start yelling and look down the other way and think it's the other guy. And throw your voice a little bit, but no, it's hard. You need about 3 masks you go through because you're talking, and I talk my way through the game, so I'm calling, quick and plays and certain things that go along, and all of a sudden it's at the end of the period you got to ring it out. So it is different, but again, that's the least of the concerns we have right now.
So that sounds like a great spot to end it, and we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we're going to hear a short word from our sponsors. And before we do that, I'd just like to thank our sponsor, Southwest Terminal, for sponsoring the Sask Sports Show. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. And when we do come back from the break, we're going to kind of get into the actual talk about the Blazers themselves and some key players and their past games. So stay tuned.
Okay.
Okay, and we're back with the with Scott Scissons, the head coach of the Saskatoon Blazers in the Saskatchewan Midget AAA Hockey League. So before the show, we kind of just talked about everything that everybody's talking about. Some the good old COVID. It's more popular than any other celebrity in the world. So now we're going to kind of get to the fun stuff and actually talk about the Blazers. So to kick things off, I just wanted to ask you what your goals for the season are.
What do you
For
want
the
to play?
team. Yeah, fair enough.
On a normal year, JD, you look at you obviously look at the max tournament as something you want to include, and again, your league it's such a good league in Saskatchewan that you're yeah, you got tough games across the board. I mean, and not for lack of ebbs and flows on talent and how they moves around the province, but whenever you play PA or you play, now we've got Warman here or Battleford and Tisdale. Those are all good games. You get down south and it's the Patsy. It's a good league, so there's no shortage of competition and animosity. So that's something you're always looking for. Again, you want to be at the top of your league, though. I mean, that's how you want kids playing through you. That's one gauge of your program. But on a year-to-year basis, again, it's still about wins and losses, and it's the number of goals you put in the net, and you set your goals for all of those parameters of goals for and against, and how you play to hopefully build yourself in a position where you got more wins and losses.
And just like every other team, you guys are all fighting for the same spot. To be that number one team in the league and win it all in the playoffs.
Yeah, and we had a real good team last year, and we lost in the first round of playoffs. And there's two different types of hockey, and you're dealing with kids that are 15 to 17, and the message, sometimes gets lost, and different things are important at different times. And it's not for lack of making excuses. Just you got to play every night in this league, and it's part of learning. In Bantam, you can have some different teams that are stronger, and you got teams that are weaker. Where on any given night, regardless of the statistics or standings, teams can beat anybody, and that's why it's such a good league, and that's why kids that play through this league have been successful at higher levels.
Well, and when you go up against a program like Notre Dame, that is just, everybody talks about it. I mean, you could look at a team like
they get the draw from the world, so that makes it a
yeah,
easy.
And it's tough to go against them. And you guys, obviously, you guys have a recruiting area that I imagine you want to try to get local guys, but obviously, I know that you guys have some guys that aren't from Saskatoon, and it's you kind of just have to get them to play Blazer hockey and come together as a team.
Yeah, you're right, and you do some learning, but we've been fortunate. 3 years ago, we took over the program, and we weren't strong at that point, and we made some decisions as a program of ideals that we wanted to play within, and we've gotten better, year over year, and it's made recruiting a little bit easier. And right now we're fortunate. We've got a strong group of kids. We've got kids that want to come and play in the program, which makes it easier. And those are things that you work towards. It's not something that's been easy. We've got a big group of volunteers that have been a big part of getting to that point. But it's also the kids that have bought in. I mean, you've got to understand that you want to win and you've got to want to improve. And it's not for everybody, JD. The easy road isn't not the easy road. It's the hard road of working every day, and it's so again, it's a message that the kids that we've worked with have taken to heart, and we've been fortunate to have a good group of kids.
Well, and just by looking at your roster and all the guys that have been drafted, either in the WHL or in the SJHL, like they're all kids that have that capability of playing at that next level, and to have a bunch of those guys on the same team that buy into the same message is really important as well, because then you'll have a deadly team.
You need that part, competition side, JD, to make your team. Well, you're not making it, but give it the ability to continue to learn. It's a tough age group where you're dealing with high school. You're different things that are important, and it's easy to look for something otherwise. It's not for everybody. The work that's involved, it's hard. And I think our kids start to learn that you want to play at in Victoria, and we've got kids throughout the Western League, and we've got some kids that are going to gravitate towards NCAA, but the same level requires the same commitment to work, and it's So, we're at the rink, we're practicing, we got a workout after, we're doing off-ice video, we're doing some mental prep work. It's a full package, and it's not easy. So again, there's certain kids who go, it's not for me. I'm gonna go hang out with my buddies and do this and that, and I'm gonna go, I got a girlfriend, and that's important, and that's all well and good. It's just right now, if you want to get better at anything, it's a sacrifice that's required, and it's we're fortunate to have a pretty good group that wants to make that sacrifice.
And kind of leading into that, how long have you been with the Blazers, and kind of what gravitated you towards coaching the midget, like a higher level of midget hockey?
Oh, I started out coaching initiation hockey when my son played, JD. That would have been 15 years ago. And coached some spring hockey, coached through Bantam AA, and then my son was done playing and did some scouting for the Blazers and got called in to help out one year. And then we stepped away, and there was a kind of a change of format, and they were looking for a head coach. And a friend of mine was organizing the board there and asked me if I'd do it. And you know what, I'd always thought that this was the perfect age group. They have to kind of play through. You lose the kids that their mom and dad want them there. They have to come and try and want to be there. And if you get the right group, they're going to play past, and whether it's the SJ, the AJ, BCJ, or into the Western League, they want they're sponges, and that's the age group you want to deal with. I think high level hockey's tough because you got parents are still paying to play at this level, and you've got to be accountable to the minor hockey component and the somewhat of a fair play model where you've got to get kids on the ice at times where the coach might not want them out there, but they got to get their feet wet, and they got to learn. And that's so this is the toughest level, to be fair, and yet it's the most fun to be a part of because you watch them learn and get better, and it's quite a fulfilling level to be at.
Well, and what are some struggles and some challenges when you coach, ages of 15 to 17, like they're young boys, and you're turning them into men?
Well, we're helping them. They're
Yeah.
doing it. We're part of the component. The toughest part is reality. I mean, you deal with the pressures that they deal with, and I was the best player on my team, and I should be on the first power play, and I should do this, and I should do that, and it's learning, and that's why you need some good coaches to help you, because you can't do it all yourself. B, we didn't invent hockey, so everybody's going to have an opinion, which is great. That's your part of being Canadian. I mean, everybody knows hockey, right, JD?
Yeah.
But it's trying to manage expectation, help them get better. Again, some of the kids that I give credit to came back and said, you know what, Scott, I'm not going to play. I don't want to play at this level. And it was before a season started, and it happened one time. But I said to the young man, I said, I'm impressed that you knew that. You knew yourself well enough that you didn't take a spot from somebody that wanted it. You knew what the commitment level was, and you identified that it wasn't for you. And those are things that we see with these groups of kids where I don't know if I could have made that decision. And I always said to the young man, I was proud of him for being able to step up and say, hey, this isn't for me. So you see lots of kids are on the other side where they want it all and they want to work for it all, and that's impressive as well. But there's a duality to this, and it's a real fun age group to be around.
Yeah, I can imagine being around a bunch of 15 and 17-year-olds, 15, 16, and 17-year-olds on a road trip. Oh.
Yeah. Well, that's different. And again, you don't. That's different. Yes, we don't. I mean, we're somewhat confined because it's their weekends and you're playing a lot of hockey in a short period. But yeah, it's not without its comedy from time to time. And it's if you can't deal with it, then you shouldn't be doing it. So it's a lot of, again, you keep it in line, but it's a lot of fun.
Yes. You know what? As long as you're having fun and and you're doing something that you love too. Obviously, you love the game of hockey, and you're sharing that with these kids.
Yeah, hockey's. Yeah, you do. I think it's a love-hate relationship because it's. Well, no, and truly, because you learn a lot through it, and it's more the compete side. Hockey's a great sport, whether it's hockey, golf, basketball, baseball. It's competition. We're in Canada. We have 6 months of winter. You become comfortable on the ice, and that's where you lane to. So, it's a great game tactically, physically, psychologically. There's so many components to it that you can break down, and you've seen guys become proficient at it. And it's a pretty wild ride. And as you sit back, you're learning every day. You're listening to everybody around you, and again, it's no different than most things in life, though, JD. It's you're never surprised in what you get the next day.
I imagine a lot of these kids will never forget that, or this, playing.
Yeah, you try to, and you try and make an impact with them, and you try, but you don't. Again, we can't change them. I mean, we can help them be different. We can't. We're going to guide them as best we can, but we encourage them to be their own young men. We want them to be strong enough to say yes, no, or maybe so for the reasons they feel important, and that's part of growing up. Lots of them, again, reality and math doesn't lead to a lot of them playing the NHL. But if they can forge, some good friendships, some good memories, and get some school paid for, and along the way, it's that's what you're looking for, and your relationships longer term. I mean, the number of guys that I still see from playing from the Blades and with Team Canada and a little bit out in New York, it's you still have relationships with these guys, and it's like you just saw them yesterday, even though it was 25 years ago.
I do have a question for you. It's kind of off topic, but I'm from Kamloops originally, and I want to know, did you coach Connor Zary?
I did not coach Connor Zary. I know I grew up with his mom.
Oh, okay.
And we were fortunate enough to have Connor out for a couple skates before he left for the Team Canada camp. And I know Connor. He was in that little gray area right after I was done coaching Bantam, and when he played for the Contacts, and he moved through there very quickly. But Connor's always been, proficient. He was always head of the class when he was out here. But he's just the thing is he's just gotten better. Where some kids level out, hit a ceiling, whatever. It happens. Connor he came out and skated, and I was like, he's 6 feet tall now. His skating's gotten, cleaner. His compete's always been off the chart. So it's fun to watch. And, again, you're proud of the kids that come out of Saskatoon because you're still, a homer in that regard. But it's fun watching him because his mom and the family, real solid family.
Yeah, no, I had season tickets, and I got a front row seat to him every night. And he can score. And he was also on a good line too with two other really good players. But him himself, that also helps. But he's definitely grown since the year before when he was. I think that was his first official year in the dub with the Blazers.
He's in a real good spot. I think he'll be in contention for that World Junior team, and that's, again, it's a snapshot for where it is right now. But I think his work ethic and his compete are going to separate him. As again, you get to the top levels of hockey, JD, and everybody's good, everybody's strong, everybody is, and you got to find your niche that makes you different and the ability to play in certain situations.
What would you say that your coaching style is? Are you leaning towards more of like an all-around kind of, you want a team that's all around? You more defensive, offensive kind of? What's your style?
Well, I think you have to coach towards the talent level you have, and that's more so. Right now, we're pretty talented, so we're pretty fast right now. We try to get our defensemen up. We're trying to be agile. A lot of the things that I wasn't as a hockey player, GD, that's where you gravitate towards, where you're smart, you're quick, and you're fast. We play pretty quick hockey right now, and I'm okay taking some risks because I know we've got guys that can compensate with their skating and their ability to play. When we started this process, we weren't as talented, so we played a lot more of a tactical game where we were better defensively. We had to stress that to be competitive. So again, I think using a poker term, we got a pretty good hand right now. So we're playing fast where I don't have to be too defensive. And again, we'll get caught at times. PA stuck it up our backside the other day because we weren't very good, and they outworked us, and that's what happens. And it's a great lesson to learn when you don't compete. But we're pretty fast and pretty talented, and we're pretty deep. So it's, again, knock on wood, it's a fun. I just really have to open the gate right now.
Well, at some point too, when you got that much talent, I was watching, let's say a famous sports movie at some point, like, you got them to commit to the team. Now at some point you're going to have to let them, you might have to let them play and show you what they can do.
Yeah, and we've talked about it. We do, again, we're fortunate. Bobby Braybrook does a lot of mental prep work. Bobby's a principal in Saskatoon. He's been a hockey coach mentor in Saskatchewan for a lot of years. And Bobby's done a great job of talking about just the different components of, and I give them the space to do it because I want the kids to be comfortable to say, hey, coaches, he's not all right sometimes, and give them the comfort level of being able to bounce those things off them. But the kids, like I said, the kids, they're so sponge like, JD, and that's the thing I gravitate back to is they want more, they want to push for more, and they're always asking for more, and you get back to that being the leading edge of why we're doing this.
Well, no, these kids, like you said, yeah, they are a sponge and they do take in a lot of things. And it's great that you have that sort of out for them to talk with somebody maybe and just to talk about whatever too, which is awesome.
Well, you need that pressure relief valve every now and again. You know what? You've got an agent, you've got friends that are expecting this and that. And again, the nice thing is that Bob can talk about the other clients he works with, and he works with some NHL guys, he works with some junior kids, and all of a sudden it makes sense where it's not a weakness. It's actually part of becoming better, where you understand things, you're mentally prepared, you get off your shift and you're preparing for the next shift. So there's lots of tools now that they've identified that make you a better hockey player. So it's no different than being better conditioned or stronger. Your brain and your mental preparation becomes an asset as well.
And that's key too. You need to be mentally focused, especially playing at this high level hockey for these young kids.
Yeah, and it's easy to get yourself down where you've got expectation with social media and all the other things that go along where all the points are up every day, and if you're not getting your proper amount of sunshine, all of a sudden you feel like you're not doing your job. Or again, there's components to every team, and not everybody gets to be the quarterback or everybody gets to be the star wide receiver. Sometimes you got to be the fullback or that left tackle, and that's part of what makes a good team. So we want to make sure everybody understands, and at different ages it's the same component. We have Rowan Woodward's on our team, who's a 100-point Bantam, where he's a first-year kid on our team, and he's probably not going to see as much power play time as he deserves, but he understands that he's learning from the Nolan Flamans or the Holden Doles or the Matty Hodsons, where they put their time in the league, and that's part of the transfer of your age, is that you don't get everything when you think you deserve it. It's a good league, and to be part of a good team. Well, right now he's got to be he's a third line player, and he's going to play some power play, but he's got to learn how to PK, and he's going to do some of the little things that he didn't have to do last year. And I think as you learn going from league to league and you can assimilate those situations, you're going to be able to play longer. If all of a sudden you're only the first line centerman and you're playing behind Sidney Crosby, well, you're now the second line centerman. You're not the first line centerman. And those are things that if you can learn now, it'll make your transfer from the next levels of hockey a lot simpler.
No, and that's just one of the things these kids are going to have to learn. And with kind of bringing that up, kind of talking about some of the players, we're going to take a short break. It's everybody's favorite time of the show. It's commercial time. And before we take commercial, I'm just like to thank my sponsor, Southwest Terminal, for sponsoring the Sask Sports Show. I'm here with Scott Scissons, and after the break, we're going to actually finally get into the team itself and talk about some of the players that have been shining for the team, and we're going to kind of break down the forwards, defensemen, and their goalies as well. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back. Back on the Sask Sports Show. I'm with my guest, Scott Scissons. We've been talking about COVID, and we've also been talking about Scott. We're literally just talking about Chris on the break. We're talking about Scott's coaching career and his strategy and kind of what he wants to implement for these kids. So now we're going to get to the team itself. So obviously your team started out 3-1. Big win against the Contacts, as we kind of briefly talked about. The only loss coming to PA. I kind of want to talk a little bit about that loss in PA. You guys beat them then, I think the Friday before you guys went up there, played them on a Sunday.
Yep.
And
we were good or decent the night before, 6-3, 7-3, something like that, maybe 8-3. And then went into Prince Albert and got outworked, flat out outworked. Pretty disappointing when you look at it, because you talk about it, and you talk about trap games and overconfidence and not. I mean, the reality, like we talked earlier, JD, is that it's a good league, regardless of who and what and where. And some lessons are better learned than taught, and that's what we got taught. And we got taught that day. It wasn't even close. So give BA full credit; they were better than we were.
Well, it's tough too going to someone else's barn too. Obviously, with not having a full rink to have behind you, there's something for home ice advantage that gets you going.
Sure, it's always nice playing at home, but it doesn't. I mean, it shouldn't affect your work ethic. So, like I said, at the end of the day, we just flat out got outworked, and it's a very cliche, but hard work beats talent, and talent doesn't work hard, and we got it shoved right up our backside. And again, it's one of those lessons you learn, and you don't like having to learn it, but unfortunately, when you're sitting there on the bench, you feel like you're whipping a dead horse at times, because and you look at your other coaches and you kind of put your hands up and go, well, we told them. But again, they're kids, and you have to take it in stride, and you use it as a learning point. And we've done a bunch of video from it, and again, I think it reflected in the effort against the context, because from one end of the spectrum to the other, we were probably a solid 160 degrees, if not 180, different in terms of our work ethic and our application of our game strategy.
I imagine it's a tough loss, especially with how you guys played against them in the first game. But I just wanted to talk about some key players that you've thought that have stood out. Like going through evaluation camp and to begin the season. I see that Spencer Bell, he's your guys' leading scorer with about 9 points right now. Just what players have caught your eye?
Oh, you know what, JD, we need more time. We've been fortunate. We've had lots of good talent. Our back end is probably our biggest separation this year. We've got 6 defensemen that will play at higher levels of hockey, from Boston Buckberger to Reed Andreessen, a 17-year-old, a 15-year-old, Hunter Mayo, Kalen Parker, Logan McCutcheon, Dalen Weigel. They're all very strong, which makes it, as a forward, it makes you a lot better, because pucks on your stick, you're not worrying about things. You can take a little more chance at times because your comfort level, you got your babysitters back there. Up front, we've got, a real strong group. We've had Carter Derinsky join us from Yorkton. Holden Dole joined us from Beardy's last year. Spencer Bell, like you mentioned, joined us. Our holdovers of Nolan Flam and Parker Lalonde. And it's been so long since been on the rink, I'm going to miss a few kids here. Will Blake. So and then we got a good group of young kids. Joshua Kresge, like I said, Rowan Woodward earlier, Matty Edwards. Again, it's a nice, mix of kids and with different talent levels. And like I said, we're pretty happy with who we have, and we've been real fortunate. Other than the anomaly in PA on Sunday, it's been real good so far.
So would you say that you have that like 4 lines that you can interchange, or have you kind of set your lines? Who's going to play who? I know when it's different when it comes to injuries and whatnot. People are out, but have you done a lot of testing to see who works well with who?
Yeah, well, and that's the hard part of the stop and start of the season. We really haven't had a lot of time to establish a lot of chemistry. You can do it in practice, and you can do it against your teammates, but you see some natural progression with some kids, and we've left them together, but we've also had to pull some guys around to try and level things out. I do like to have 4 groups that you can roll out. Our back end, we're very comfortable putting them out in any situation. So that is comfort level for the front side. And we're pretty deep. I'm not talking about our goaltenders on purpose, but they are very strong. We've been fortunate with Brett Meerwald to come back from Moose Jaw. Alex Garrett was an 8th round pick to Calgary, and James Venn's a listed goaltender with Medicine Hat, and they've been very good as a group. So you're knocking on wood. We've been fortunate, JD, to have a pretty strong group, and we joke around the room that we got to find a solution to COVID, because we don't want to miss this group and not be able to see what they can do.
Well, and especially with how many of the guys have been drafted. Well, like I said before, even in the dub. A lot of those guys, like I know Boston is going. He got drafted by Kamloops.
Yep.
And like you said, those two goalies. One's been drafted by the Tigers, and the other by the Hitmen. And it's just, it's just great, to have a team like that is, built for success.
Yeah, it's in both. It's a dual in that fact. We're uncomfortable that we're not being able to play, and yet we're hopeful in the new year. I mean, if we have to back things up and we start in mid-January and you get that playing into April, May, these kids have played spring hockey forever anyway, so it's not that different. We take what we can get right now, and again, hopefully we get some good numbers over Christmas and people enjoy the break, and yet are safe. We get to come back, and in the proper context, hockey, we need the sports in any level to be able to get back to some semblance of normal, but it has to be in the right context. And when numbers are running away, it's unfortunate. It just doesn't fit, in what we're doing right now. And that's reality.
Well, I know we've talked about your, Boston Buckberger being kind of your, or you were talking about your defensemen. All six of them are just shut down. Would you say that any six of them could go up and shut down the first line of the other team you can put out?
Well, I'd feel comfortable, and again, the shut down is tough because you got lots of talent in this league. But I'd feel comfortable playing any of them. I mean, again, we've got our two 17-year-olds in Dalen and Boston, and they're obviously got a couple of years of experience. Dalen's got 3, and Reed's in his first year, but he's a very high-end defenseman. And again, the McCutcheon, Mayo, Parker group, they were drafted within 4 picks or a handful of picks in the second round of the West League draft, and they're very talented. So, like I said, we're very fortunate in that regard where we can, when you see injuries in your back end, we can run them all out at times, and then we joke about the fact we don't play all 5 of them at one time. We might just hit the forwards if need be. So it's a fun time, JD. And again, we're we know it's taken a lot of hard work to get to this point, but we're very happy with where we sit right now.
And just to finish her off too, let's talk about the goaltenders. Never want to leave them out. And because I know, well, according to the research I've done, technically, or both of them are rookies. So this would be their first year, or
Yep.
Yeah. And how have they worked out for you?
Well, they've been great. They work hard. They're good kids. James is James wasn't drafted but listed, but he's just grown. He's one of the kids at times has been on his side where he's over 6'1" now. I think he's not real thick, but he's a big frame goaltender. Alex is a very athletic. I think he's hitting 6 feet now too, and continues to grow. So we're fortunate where we've got these two strong goaltenders in the same regard. On any given night, we can throw them in with full confidence and let them go. And I mean, the game in PA was Alex's first game, which is unfortunate because he didn't have any support up front. And that's where, as a first-year goaltender, you wish your team would have given him a little more help. But he's very strong mentally and knows that component wasn't in front of him. And again, didn't blame the team, but is looking forward to his next start.
Well, would you say that you have I know you've only been through 4 games. It's kind of hard to tell after 4, but would you say that you have possibly a starter, like a number 1 guy?
Yeah, I got 2. I mean, in all honesty, we've gone from year to year where we've had, you've had a starter and a guy that, is your definitely your B goaltender. Right now we're, and again with having Brett Meerwald back, who's probably one of the best 17-year-olds in Western Canada, we got a stable that's pretty strong. So no, I don't have a starter between the two of them. We're gonna let them run, and I think they'll ebb and flow. And I think the goaltenders, the problem with goalies in our league now, JD, is they don't get to play enough. And because we only have 44 games, they probably could play that on their own. And given that we're playing college schedule on weekends, you really could, run them because you got all week to rest. But so you play 1 game a week for, it's just not enough action for the goaltenders. So that's where you feel for them. But when we've added some extra shooting during the week because you've got some of the Western League kids around do some shooting, so we're getting them some more action, but it's still not game action. So again, everybody's got their own nuance that they're working through right now.
Well, and then it's hard too. Like if they get up, they get into the WHL schedule and they're playing anywhere depending on what team you're on. They could be playing 50 games just in a season.
Yeah, and again, with minor hockey, we're bound to getting some type of rotation in, so we have to make sure that there's not, you're not going to play 35 games unless there's an injury, which you can run into. But we're fortunate where we've got 2 guys that can play at any given time. Right now, 3 guys that can play at any given time at any situation and with full confidence. So it's a good thing.
Well, Scott, I appreciate you coming on the show, and I just want to wish you good luck. I guess we'll see on the 17th what's going to happen. I really hope hockey comes back because I know that's big for you and for the boys. I know only playing 4 games in a season is not very fun. Nope.
No, we're again that part, but hopefully we're going to get to a position where we get some little more action in the new year, JD. So again, I appreciate the invite coming on. It's always fun talking hockey. So again, hopefully for on the 17th we'll get a nice Christmas present.
Well, we'll have to have you on the show in the new year once the season gets kickstarted again, and we'll continually talking about the team and the progression of the team. So again,
hopefully we're something to talk about.
Well, again, thanks for coming on the show, and that is the conclusion of the Sask Sports Show for tonight. I just want to make sure that you guys tune in every Thursday night at 8:00 Central Time for the Sask Sports Show. And I wanted to really thank our sponsors, the Southwest Terminal, for sponsoring the Sask Sports Show. So I will see you guys again next week.